Hello and welcome to another ARCHLine.XP webinar series. ARCHLine.XP from start to finish. My name is Zoltán Tóth. Over here is, as always, our resident architect, Mr. Illés Pap. Hi. Today's episode is about designing a building. Let's see what we have here. So like I said, today is the first episode of a webinar series. Illés, can you tell us more about what this series is going to contain?
Yeah, well, on the screen we have a project now. We will focus on a larger building, which consists of 4 different parts. We will focus on the one that is closest to us. We will design the wall parts, the walls, the openings, doors and windows. We will focus on how to create the ceiling themselves, the slabs themselves as well. Also the roof structure we will talk about. We will create the gutter, and we will at the end we will finish the project by adding a few details like columns and things like that. So today we will actually design the left-hand side of this complex 2-story building from start to finish, and that's what we will talk about today actually.
Perfect. First up is about file imports. So when it comes to working with ARCHLine, you sometimes work with existing files, right?
Yeah, that's right. ARCHLine.XP is an open system. We are proud to say that ARCHLine supports many different file sources. When you would like to work with external sources and when you would like to give your project to someone else to work on it. So today we will actually focus on what sort of file types ARCHLine supports. We have a diagram about that which nicely summarizes how and what sort of file types generally. These are not all the file types, but the most important file types ARCHLine supports. And I think when we talk about architectural designing, the most important are the top, the DWG file, Revit files, IFC files. And today we will focus on the DWG files. That is a common scenario that someone receives to the drawing and would like to process that into a real BIM model. So this is what we will focus on today. And obviously we will not talk about that today, but you can actually start from scratch and just think what you would like to design and start with a white plain paper and start designing on that. Actually, whatever I do, I have to open a new project. So this is what I do now. I just quickly open the new project. These are the recent projects. We will not talk about those now. We just quickly create a new project and then start processing the file that we have. If you have an external file, like a DWG file, you will be able to import that by using the file menu, and you will find it in the import. You know, there are all those file formats. DWG is the one that we will go with now. If I click on that, I can browse the file. But there is also another method that I like a lot, and I would like to show you that. In Windows, you actually have the files themselves. Let me just quickly find the file, the folder itself. It's this one here. And yeah, I have the DWG files collected in a folder like this. So I actually already have the DWG files, and when I would like to open or import any of those, I can not just open it by using the file, open or import DWG, but I can also open the file itself in a folder and quickly find the one. This is the one that I'm about to process now, and quickly click and drag and release on the surface of ARCHLine. And then this is also the same thing. This is actually the same import.
So what do we see over here?
Well, actually, now we actually process 3 or 4 different versions of this DWG file because this is how it was exported. The first DWG file that we're about to import is the site plan. And this site plan is actually here. This is already the drawing. We can zoom into and check whether this is the content you wanted to use. And as ARCHLine automatically generates a preview of that DWG file prior importing, you can see that ARCHLine actually recognizes the units if those are stored with the DWG file. So you don't have to do anything, you just check it. There is a ruler. It helps a lot to find whether it's in a proper scaling. If not, you can change the scaling. If you think like it's okay, then you just go with okay, and then you just quickly push the OK button in the screen. Yeah.
2 questions I have at this point. How do I know when I imported that it's in the right scale? And what happens if I want to add an additional drawing to this?
Yeah, well, let me just open this. I just quickly go with the default settings, and then now I have the DWG file in front of me. The first and best step that you can do when you process an external source, whatever source you have, is that at least to check one size of that drawing to determine whether it's okay or not. So for that, you will actually find the documentation, it's the dimension, and there is the measure tool. And there's a distance tool, which allows you to pick 2 points of that drawing that you have imported and measure whether you like the value. Now we are in millimeters, so that's why we see those values appearing like that.
Yes.
I think it's okay, so I will go with this.
Should be fine.
But if it wouldn't be okay, it would be, I don't know, a little bit smaller or larger, I can either rescale it or I can also re-import it using a different value. Now, when I would like to merge this together with another drawing, because these are actually only the lands that I'm about to design my buildings on. So I would like to open the other DWG file, which contains only the drawing. So I go again to the file, import and DWG, or as I already have this folder open, I just use the same method. I just find the other one. This is the ground floor. I will start with the ground floor, and I just quickly click and drag and release it here. And when the dialog appears, I can again, you asked about how to check the size. This is also a best place to check, because you can just zoom in and find whether it seems the door is
Yes,
fine. It should be okay.
fine.
So you can use this ruler to check.
Yes, but the question is, how do I merge this to the exact place where it should go?
Yeah, well, if you click on OK, then there is an this is also automatically merging the files together. So it's not opening in a new folder. It's actually just something that you can say that, okay, let's just merge them together. So the ARCHLine automatically generates the 2D, and it prepares the 3D, but now the 3D is empty because this is just a 2D drawing. So when we will start processing the BIM items, the BIM elements, the walls and everything else, we will see them appearing on the right-hand side.
Before we start processing this drawing, can you talk about the layers? How do we isolate parts of this drawing? Because we don't need the whole thing, right?
Yes, absolutely. And just as other CAD software and BIM design software, ARCHLine also supports the layers. There's the layer manager here. When you click there, you will find all the layer properties and all the list of the layers that you have with this project. Now, it's quite a plenty. So at the right-hand side, the first thing that you will see that there is the all layers and use layers filter. So likely you will have more layers than you already use. And if you imported something like a DWG file we did earlier, it automatically gets this filter. So ARCHLine helps you to find that specific DWG file and turn their layers off or make them editable or not. So this is actually what I would like to do. I imported the site plan, but at this very moment, I don't need the site plan. I will need it later. So I just isolate it. I just use that filter with that name. And that helps me finding the layers. And actually, if I click on the first one and I hold Shift and click on the last one, I select the whole list. And then when I click on this one, I can actually disable the layers. I double clicked on that, so it made it disabled. It's not visible. I can tell it because the bulb is gray. It's not editable, so I won't see this content. And also regarding the ground floor, I don't want to see all the layers. For example, I don't want to see the stair layer, and I don't want to see the column layer at this very moment. So I just disable those. And when I'm finished with that, and I say OK, ARCHLine.XP actually shows me only that part of the DWG files and the whole layers list.
Perfect. So this is how we import a drawing and manage it to a size which we can work with. And now we look at how we actually process this and turn it into a three-dimensional building model. So let's see how we turn this into something that we can manage. So basically, this is a two-dimensional line drawing.
Yeah.
How do we make it something better?
So we double check the size. We can tell that it's only lines and 2D, and there is no 3D. So to process a drawing like this, to process a DWG file and process its walls, but that's very likely where we'll start with always, is the wall tool is in the building. You can find all the building parts here. And when you would like to determine what sort of settings you would like to use with a specific item, you can do that prior using that tool in the properties menu. You will find the walls, openings, and so on. I just quickly go to the wall properties to tell whether this is having the proper settings, like the proper height. Thickness is not that important now because we will just pick the thickness from the drawing, but you can set up the thickness when you design on your own. And you can set up obviously the materials and many more. You can actually create a multi-layer wall as well using the edit compound wall tool. One thing to note here, all these settings, all these items that you set here can be stored, and it is stored now in a so-called style, which helps a lot when you would like to work with ready-made styles. So I will just actually use the default one. I don't change anything, but this is where I could change the settings, and this is where I could store these things into a new style. Starting with the wall tool, there are a few options. You can just start quickly designing a wall by 2 clicks or a size. But now I have a DWG file, so I just use the walls on DWG drawing tool. And this is a very simple tool. You need to zoom in to be precise, and then you just pick, see, this is a line of this wall. I pick one point close to its corner point, not the corner point, because in that case I could select this and this, but I just hold my mouse here. So to pick that point and pick the other point close to it, so ARCHLine recognized the length, and then I click on the thickness, and ARCHLine turned it into a wall. See, not the whole wall was turned into a line. It was because I was not precise enough. I can collect them later. But if I hit escape now, and I just click here, and I use this tool here, this allows me to, reorganize content. I can see that there's the 3D and there's the 2D now. If I click on the 2D and I click here again, this swaps the drawing. So this is kind of a focus on drawing tool, and this helps me zoom in and finding the content properly. So now what we see here on the left hand side, we will be able to follow quickly on the right hand side, because I just zoomed in and out. It's scroll up and scroll down, and I just use the mouse wheel hold and move, and this is panning. This works on the 2D and on the 3D as well. So I just rearranged the content to see what we do on the 2D and in the 3D. So I just continue working with this tool, and while I'm doing, I think you can talk about other details.
Just to recap, what is happening here is that Ilish is picking points close to the end point of the wall, and then he picks the opposite side of the wall. The software then interprets these lines as being walls, and it's going to turn these line work into actual 3-dimensional parametric walls. But much more than that happens, actually, because you remember we didn't have to specify the thickness, because the thickness comes from the drawing. So it doesn't matter what the thickness of these walls are, as long as we are picking the right lines. Another thing, and this is something that we have seen before, the software tries to connect the walls automatically, as it happens in some parts of this drawing. But if this connection is not automatically resolved, if the T and L connection is not happening automatically, that's something that you can manually override whenever you get there. And mainly for this reason, it's always worth to go for a longer length. So when you have the chance to turn a line work into wall, always start with the longer ones, because then the software finds it easier to turn this into an actual wall. As you see, we don't care about the openings yet. We only care about the walls. And now what is happening, the software quickly turns the line into wall, and it doesn't matter what the thickness is, the software would recognize that. So we still have a couple of walls left.
There's one.
Yeah, there's one left. And notice that we're using the same tool, because that's the only way to make sure that, that we get the right thickness. Now the question comes, how do we resolve the the connections, T and L connections?
Yeah. Well, now it's easy to see on the 2D as well, but let me turn the 3D as well, so we can see both content well. So I just click in the 3D, and I use the shift mouse wheel hold, and then I rotate. So I'm just moving the mouse. So this is how you can orbit around the model. So there you can also see the openings. This is totally normal when you process a design like this, so no worry about that. But you will likely want to fix that. So there are two options here at the top of the screen. This is the T and this is the L connection. Actually, the difference is only the shape of the connection. So this obviously looks like an L connection. So I just click on this one, pick the wall, and pick the other wall, and ARCHLine.XP automatically solves this situation. I can do that going around and see whether I have anything else that is not connected.
Can I do this in 3D as well? Maybe I see it better in 3D, so I can see exactly what's going on.
If it's easier to find, because sometimes the DWG file can be a bit confusing. Yeah, in that case, you just zoom in and find, there's a spot I need to connect, and then you just use the same tool again, L connection. And mind that there is actually two types of L connections. This is for the lines and this is for the walls. There's a difference between those. So I just use the wall L connection and I connect this, and it solves the 2D and the 3D together. And should be there any other sort of connection, like a T connection? Let me just make sure that I have connected this with that. Yeah, these are already connected. This with that one, it was likely not connected, and this, yeah, those are already connected. So I just go around, make sure that everything is checked, everything is connected. But if I forget it later, no worries. Later you can do the same thing again.
Yes. What about the materials? Because we see that now some of the walls are brownish, some of them are white. Why is this that way, and how can we make it all white?
Yeah, well, actually let me just connect these two walls together as well. Yeah, now they're in the L connection. So about the materials, this is something that you either switch during design when you design something. Let's see, I'm working with this 38 centimeter wide wall. I can switch to another one which is different material. This also solves the situation. Also, I can go to properties, wall, and change the material before I design them. But if I would like to do them later when I already have the walls, the simplest solution is to either select them in 2D or in 3D and change their material. This is how it goes. You just click on an empty area, cover the whole drawing with the walls, and release the mouse button and click again. And then now it's selected. I have a few other items selected, but no problem. I can filter, I can narrow it down. I can see that now 335 elements, perhaps 2D drawing,
yes,
drawing
most
parts
of them
are
lines
also
anyway.
Selected, but I can zoom and focus on the walls only and make sure that these walls, this is what we want to do, have the same material inside and outside, a bright white material. So I just click on coffee cream, and then in the material browser, I can either go and use the materials already existing in this project, or I can go to the home button to find all the rest of the materials, colors, and everything else. We will talk about that later. So I just go into the in model because I use something that I already used and it's bright white. I click OK, and then now everything is changed based on my selection.
Perfect. I think the next thing what we should be doing is to create a slab, because you can fall through this model. So how do we create a slab? Do we have to manually draw them, or?
There are two ways. There is the automatic way. Let's start with that. If you design the slab, again, with the slab, you can go to the properties, structure, and find the slab properties and figure out whether you like the settings or not. This is also something that you can change later. This is how we will do that. So I will just go with the default now, and we will change the material setting later.
Yes.
So I just go and use the slab and slab by walls, because when you already have the walls, it's the easiest to again select the whole drawing and hit enter to accept your design. And then ARCHLine automatically creates this around. And now what I need to change, I believe, is the material on the side, which should be the same white. So I click on the 2D or 3D, whichever will work. I just click on this 3D because it's easier to find it there. And I find the side material and change it again to bright white. And I will go with that setting.
Maybe another tip that you can show is that how do we take one material from another element and place it onto the slab?
You mean if I would like to use the same material? Yeah,
the very same thing.
Let me just undo this. This is useful. If you would like to use the same material that you see here on the 3D surface on this surface, there is this way. You right-click on the surface and you use the Find Material tool. This Find Material tool will find the material and show the properties. This is actually where you can change the material a little bit if you want for rendering, for example. But also, as you can see it here, you can just click and drag and release it here and decide what you would like to do with that. And I will just go with the replacing one material with another on this object. And the object that I'm clicking on, let me just zoom on to, ARCHLine finds that material and replaces it with that one. So this is how it goes. This is a very handy and useful tool.
There are two other elements, and you can see the line work on the left-hand side. We have a terrace and a ramp-like thing in front of the building. So how do we create them?
For the terrace, I will use the slab again, but in this case, I will go with the slab and slab in sketch mode. This actually allows me to manually draft the contour using the breakpoints of this contour. See, if I make a mistake like I did here, there's a little difference to the point that I should click onto. No worries. Again, you can just undo Or if you fail completely, you say that, well, okay, I would like to completely drop this. You just always hit the escape key and then you restart the command. So if you make a mistake, no worries. Let me just start it again. Go back to Slab in sketch mode, again start sketching. And then let me just zoom in here to be more precise. Find the corner points like this here. And then when I hit enter, again, ARCHLine generates that. And then now here, I believe I need to change two materials because this is some sort of concrete outside.
That's right. I think we have one in the library to which we can change that.
Yeah. So again, I select it either here in the 3D or in the 2D, and I change the top material and the side material to something called concrete. Concrete 3. Let me just find if it's already there. If it's not here, that means I didn't use it before. So I go to the libraries, and I can find it either somewhere in building, or as I'm processing a tutorial now and I know it's existing, I can also find concrete. And there is concrete 3. So if when you start working with ARCHLine and you get to know the materials, or you create your own material and you know the name of the material, it's just like a free search on the web. You just find your own material here in the library. So it's concrete 3, and now it's again concrete 3. It's in the model already, so I just quickly click on that, and there's this nice gray surface here.
How about the ramp? Because it's going to be an inclined slab, so how do we create that?
Well, yeah, actually you can use the slab as well. There is a slab allows you to create a slope slab, but as this is more like a ramp, and it is perhaps the design principles are similar to how anyone in the world would design a ramp. There's actually a ramp tool. This ramp tool behaves with a library. It actually has a library and behaves in a similar fashion like you will see in the stair. You just select the base shape that you think your ramp is similar to. I will go with a straight one. And you just pick the 2 points, the starting, the lowest point and the highest point. And then now it's a little bit narrow. I need to cover this whole area. So I select it and I click on the contour, and on the contour I can see that there is an edge menu. This gives you the options, the opportunities that you can do with the edge. You can actually offset the edge, and you can just snap it to the line drawing here and click there. One thing here, ARCHLine automatically uses the object snap. This is by default on. This is why you can find all the corner points and so on. If that is not turned on, let me just do that, then you won't find the corner points. See, it's now not snapping. So it's important during precise design to turn this on, then ARCHLine finds the object snap points.
Perfect. How do we modify the contour? Because we can see up north that it's not good.
It's so in that case, again, I click on the edge. I use the insert node point, and like these are tiny pins, I just pin them to the proper point of the drawing, reshaping this whole design. And then I see another issue with this. It's actually not perfectly matching the original design, so I need to change the inclination and the height. So I go to the settings, I select this slab on the 2D, I click on this inclination, and I will just first set the top value.
Because I think it gets to 0, so that's where the ramp arrives at.
Yeah, and that's the ground level of the floor, so that's 0. Yeah. And then I also set up the lowest point, which is about, I believe it was 300.
Yes.
So I just use minus 300.
Okay, so I see that the inclination, the slope is automatically calculated. You don't have to calculate.
Yeah, you actually have these options here, so you can either decide the inclination and change the beginning, the top height and the bottom height. So these are all the possibilities here. You just go with OK, and then ARCHLine regenerates the 3D. And now, as actually this is fine. I only need to change the material, so I just select it and change this concrete material to the concrete material that I used before, which was concrete 3. And then I think now we are done with the slab and the ramp.
Perfect. So next thing that we do, we look at openings, doors and windows. So let's look at doors and windows. How do we turn this line work into openings?
But before we do that, let me highlight an important thing. When you work with ARCHLine or with any other software, you should frequently save your project. So sometimes when you would like to save the project, you just hit this button. I already saved this project, so it's not coming up with the window what sort of file and where I would like to save it. I actually gave the name Elata Nova 01. I typed it in the appearing dialog, and then at next time when you just click on this option, it actually just saves the latest changes. There is a shortcut for that. You should make it a habit to sometimes frequently press Ctrl and S. That's for saving, which saves the current status of the project. And from time to time, when I start working, for example, in the morning, what I do, I also use the file save project as, which allows me to save another copy of this project. Should there be any sort of problem with one copy, I at least have another copy of that project. Perfect. So yeah, get back to the doors, right? Talking about doors, there is actually a few ways to design a door. You can actually go with a predefined shapes. These are the most common used shapes. You just pick a double glazed door or anything else, or you just go with the placing door tool and then you just zoom in and try to find a spot where you already have a door and match it. But actually when you recreate a drawing based on the DWG drawing, it's better to set up the properties and use the door by 2 points. So setting up the properties, it happens the same way, just as in case of the walls. You go to the properties, opening and door, and you will have a default door. Whatever this is, you can change the door type, you can change the door material. I will just change the door solid material to something called wood paldo. I actually have these in the wood libraries. I would find it somewhere in the softwoods or any other library. But now I'm not remembering well, but I know that there is a door like that. So there is a material like that named wood paldo. I just click on that and click OK. So now I change this, and now I double click here, and because I already used it in this project, I don't have to always go back and search it. I will find it in the in-model library. So I just click here. Okay, so now I changed it.
Mind you that sometimes we have to adjust the distance from wall line. In this scenario, it's not needed, but that's something that you might need to adjust.
If you process this design as we do now, if it's originally, I believe it was 100, you just change it to 0. This is actually the distance between the wall surface and the wall panel distance. This is what you set up here.
If I don't want to lose the things that I have adjusted here, how do I save this into a customized template?
Actually, there is a style option here, just as in case of the walls. We saw that. You click here and you see a similar list, and you can save it with a new option into a new style if you prefer that. You don't have to, but you can, and sometimes it's just simply better to store these settings. You can also set up the width, the height, the thickness. We don't change those now. We just go with these values, and I just click OK, and I start processing the doors.
And how does that work?
In case of recreating a DWG drawing, you will use the door by 2 points. This allows you to pick 2 points on your drawing or your original drawing, and then you can move the mouse around to find the opening direction to match the original drawing. And then again, you just do the same thing here. If it's for any reason it's not appearing, see, there is no orange dot here. Somehow the ARCHLine couldn't recognize the wall or something else happened. You can just try with the other side of the wall.
Alternatively, you can even copy and paste the opening.
You can also do that. So you just move around again, find the opening direction, and just repeat the same thing around here, the 2 points, and like that.
Yes. What do I do if I didn't get the right opening direction? Maybe I misclicked. How do I change that
later you can change it. I will show with that with one item. But now we actually have 3 other doors, but those are with different type. I have a few options. I can go to properties, find the best door, and change it. But sometimes if the doors are just changing from time to time, I don't take care of those. I just simply process the doors with the current setting that I have, which is a single door, even the double doors, but later I will just simply change them using proper settings that I would like to use. So this is also a good option to go with. I will just quickly click here, set it up, and then later change it. So let's just focus on the entrance door, right? This is something that we will
Yes,
start with.
yes. If you just highlight it, you see that there are several things that we have to adjust. Distance from wall line is one of those things.
Which is here. This is 0 now, so I just click and edit it to 100. So we are talking about this distance here.
Yes.
Enter. So now it's changing, so I can see it's shifting towards to the outside. I should also change the height. I believe that was around
2400.
2400, yeah. So I just changed that.
And the type itself is not good either,
Yeah.
Because this is a one wing.
Yeah,
but
well,
this
obviously, yeah. So
we're
I
looking for something.
I just go to the properties, and then when I see this flush door, I can see the name here. I click here, and then I get to the libraries.
Yes.
This is similar to the material libraries. I have different types, but now I are in this library. So we have one single opening, the other one is fixed. So I will go with this one. I click OK. And yeah, I would like to keep the previously set dimensions. Yes. And I think I'm done. I just click OK. And then the software decides. And this is when your question comes into frame. When I click here on the door symbol itself. See, now I'm finding the arcs. So I just quickly jump to the door symbol. And this is where you can find this mirror left, right, in, out setting, which if it wouldn't be perfect, you can just flip it around. Let's just go to this one.
Double door should be changed as well.
Yeah.
The height should be, I think the height is fine, but
Yeah.
the type itself is not good. It should be a double wing door. That should be a flush internal double, I think.
Yeah, let's just, well, again, I can just go around and try to find it. Now that we know the name, I will just use the flush internal, well, perhaps it's with another name, so let's just go with the inter. Yeah, that's a good thing to point out. Zoltan just pointed out that I'm searching in a single door library, and if the door that I'm looking for is not in this library, I won't find it. So I should go to the home, and then I just use the same search word, and this is the one that I wanted to find. So in this case, ARCHLine is looking at all the doors. Yeah, yes, I would like to keep the dimensions that I previously said. I don't want to change anything else, so I click OK, and then now it's fine. Well, actually, I have to change something because that's the thickness here. I have a wall having a total thickness of 100 millimeters, but this door had a different default setting. I believe it was around 110 or 150, so I just changed this value. This is the thickness. Redraw, so it's thinner now, and I click OK. And now I do the same thing here. I just select this door, and I think what we do now first is we need to find the proper door type, which is which is a sliding door. So let's just go and type change the type. Well, can you help me? What's the
glass sliding in 1 is the keyword.
Glass sliding in, and again, you need to make sure that you look at all the doors. And let's just find this one. This is the proper one. Let's just select OK. Yeah, I need to keep the previous set dimensions, so this is what I do.
Yes.
I don't change anything else.
Except for the distance from wall line. That's the only value that you have to set up.
What's that? It's about
50,
50, right? So let's just click redraw, and see OK. So now I have this here, it's perfectly aligned, and we have all the doors ready. And I think now what we need to create as an additional item, as an additional opening, is the windows, right?
Yes, we have a few, and I think most of them are the same kind. So how do you set up one default by which you can work?
So let's just go again. We are in building properties and openings and windows, just as we did with the doors. Let's make sure that we have this specific window type selected. If it's not selected, then we need to go to the libraries. And it's actually in the standard single library. This is the divided frame 1 equal. But if you cannot find it, you just type this in the search field, and then you will select this value. The width is not important now again because we will pick it up from the drawing. The height is this one, 2100.
That's good. But the seal height is something that you have to set up.
Yeah, the seal height is by default 900, so we change it to 0, and this is how it's on the screen. And also, how about the thickness? The thickness is the same, right?
It's the same. We are not going to.
Yeah, but actually, the thickness is the same. Like in case of the door and the window, is this value here. And we also need to set up the proper interior and exterior seals in this specific project. And what I made, I changed the material from original beech to this wood paldo on this internal and the external sill as well. So these are the changes that I've made here earlier.
Yes.
So let's just click OK, and then now I use the same tool. In case of window, we have the same window by 2 points, just as in case of the doors. And then now I just click on 2 corner points of these windows on the drawing, and it automatically recognizes the proper size. And then here, when you can see, you cannot see the edge point on the corner point, or I mean on the edge of the wall. You can actually click on the drawing itself. That's also perfectly fine. So let's just go with that. And this here,
man, we have something interesting over there because it's a corner window. So how do we create that?
Well, in this case, let me just find this one and this one here. So, well, in this case, there is actually a tool to do that. Let me just zoom in here to highlight what we are talking about. Now here, we have a kind of a column made of the wall, and this is what we need to get rid of. We actually would like to connect the windows, and there is a tool here in the window commands. Let's just go back to the 2D. So in the window commands, there is a tool called Windows on Wall Corner and join 2 openings on the wall corner. And if you use this, and you click on one and another, the software actually quickly aligns them, match them up, but this also means that they are actually moving from the original points. Actually, ARCHLine is pulling those windows to join them in the corner point. So in this case, you need to click on them and click on the corner points and change the size, for example. And also the same thing you can do on the other side. You can just click on select the window, click on the endpoint, change size, match it with the other one.
You could be also typing in the values, right?
Yeah, you could, but in this case, because we see the drawing, it's simply easier to, because we don't know the distance, we are actually processing an existing drawing.
One thing that I'd like you to set up is the mullions.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the mullion for a couple of seconds, just so that we understand where it comes from.
The mullion is automatically created when the joining of the 2 windows were created, and it belongs to one of the windows. So now I can see that I've selected this one, and it's not highlighted, so it's obviously part of the other window. And as you can see, actually it's part of the left-hand side of the window, which is important because when you go into the settings, you will find that there is a built-in detail page, and there is a mullion on the left-hand side. You can actually make change here if you would like to. And this is the body material here, which need to be changed to the same material we used before. It's the wood paldo, and this is okay. And let's hit OK. And now we are done. Actually, we are done with all the windows and all the corner windows in this project. So now actually we can see it in the 3D and in the 2D as well.
Perfect. And now we are going to go 1 floor up, and for that we need a staircase. So now we are going to look at how we create a staircase.
Yeah.
So how about staircases? How do we add them? How do we modify them?
Well, there are several ways. Again, if you have a DWG drawing with a very specific staircase, you can actually follow those steps. But now we are in a simpler situation. I just would like to draw a staircase with 3 known points. So I just go to the stair library and I select the staircase that I like to work with. I believe the one that we will work with is this one, the L formal landing. So actually, when you design a staircase, you just need to find the one that is closest to the design that you are about to achieve. I just go with this one. I pick 1 corner point here, and see now actually the side of the stair is falling to the bottom part, but I just would like to flip it around to the top part. In that case, I just click on the right side option here, which flips the direction of the staircase. So I just click here, and then I just click here. I just would like to find the proper point here. So when I zoom in, I just would like to find this one on the right hand side. So I just keep my mouse a little bit here. So these green lines appear, and then I just move my mouse here. So there's an intersection between the 2. I click there, and now I have a staircase created with the default settings. So now if I would like to change these settings, I can go to the settings, select the options, and change the basic parameters that I'm about to change here. First things first, I would like to change the the staircase height to take the full floor height. So it automatically recognizes the current floor height. There is also a few settings for the ergonomics. ARCHLine.XP automatically calculates the ergonomics. And if there is a red value, that means based on the current local standards, this stair with these specific settings is not that ergonomic, so you need to fine tweak that. Actually, you can still place it on your drawing because this could be a surveyed stair, but it's just a kind of a kind reminder that you need to change those values if you'd like to make an ergonomic staircase. I believe the step numbers is around 13, right? Each and every time you change a value, you just change it and wait a little bit so ARCHLine recalculates the values.
Yes.
Let's just change this as well to a little bit wider. This should be 1200. And then, yeah, well, we are done with these settings, right? We have the N value.
Yeah.
We have the...
I think that's good.
Is there anything else we
No.
need to change? So as you can see, whenever you change the settings here, ARCHLine continuously recalculates the shape of the staircase, and it makes the little preview here so you can understand what happens. You can also go to the support, and this is the place where you can set up how it looks like, how the stair looks like itself. You can actually change how the stair behaves in relation to the walls. By default, the setting is no cutting. That means the wall is going through the staircase, but I just would like to cut the wall with the staircase, so I change this to the on floor setting. And also you can change the materials. Now we used as a top material, and we used the material all around, which was wood paldo. I just used the same for the steps, and I believe I'm done with those settings. So this is the staircase that we have here appearing automatically.
We did set up that the staircase should cut the wall, so
That's
how
right.
come it's not cutting it right now?
Because this is a sort of a thing that ARCHLine keeps tracking of now, but it's not automatically creating it. It's kind of what we call it a transactional change. When you have the time to update the model with the latest changes, then you select the 2D, you just activate the 2D window, and then you use this 3D hammer. This is for rebuilding, refreshing the changes to the 3D. Now it's a small model yet, so it took a few seconds, but if it's a larger, it could take like 10 or 20 seconds or something like that. So this is why it's not happening as an instant. You can just update it manually when you want, and then the software automatically updates all connecting drawings.
Perfect. And now it's time to move one floor up. So now we are going to create the second and the third floor of this building.
Yeah.
So how do we create a multi-story building in ARCHLine anyway?
ARCHLine automatically generates stories that you can use right away. You can change their name, you can change their properties. Story management, the levels are managed here. It's the ground floor button here, which allows you to either check the list of the existing floors, add new floors above or below, change the names by clicking here, and actually just change the height and all sort of settings. We don't go this deep into the settings now, but it's worth talking about that actually ARCHLine supports multiple buildings as well, not just multiple stories, and you can also set up the building elevation measured from the sea level.
Yes.
So all those things, talking about levels and actually drawings, floors are managed here. So now let's just go with these settings. We know that we have a ground floor, we have floors above, we are happy with that. We would like to copy the content from this floor to a floor above us, which is happening a lot because most of the time these buildings have repetitive main structural items, so you can spare time by not redrawing them again and again, but only focus on the changes. So before I copy this content, I know that the drawing above us is a little bit different, and I actually have a different drawing for that, a different DWG drawing. So before I make a copy of this content, I go back to the the layer manager, and in the layer manager I make sure that everything came with the ground floor DWG file is not active. So I disable them, I disable their visibility. So then I can see only the content that I myself created in this design. So I just select this content, and to copy this content from one floor to other, there are actually two ways. One is that I select it and I click here, and then I use this option to copy the object to the other floor. Or I can go with the option appearing on the left-hand side. I like that a lot because it's very convenient. It appears right away. So I just click here, and then I get to the same list. and I select the floor or floors. If it's having even more elevations, I just click on this one and I click OK. So the software created the copies of these items. So now I actually accidentally copied items that I didn't want to. So I can undo that, make another selection and copy, or I can just simply get rid of those items that I don't need. I don't need this here. I don't need the staircase.
Yes.
I
Partition walls we don't need either.
I think I don't need neither of those. I just quickly erase those. And obviously there is no entrance to this building at this level, so I just erase this as well. Like that.
Question, how do you know what you need? Because I assume that we have another DWG drawing for this floor as well. So can we just import it in and we can work based on that?
Yeah, that's right. There is another DWG file for the first floor. Again, I can go to the file, import DWG, or I can just simply open the folder and find the proper DWG file, click and drag and release, and then it automatically opens up. So now actually it opens up in a new document because I use this click and drag method, and this is not what I want. So I just close this. Yeah, I click on that one, and to be able to make sure that I import the content into this drawing that I already have, I go and use the file import DWG, and then I just select the first floor, and this is the option that I need to make sure that it's enabled to merge to current drawing. I click OK, and then now it's merging this content, which is the first floor DWG drawing with the values, with the scaling, into that existing drawing that I have when I click OK. So now my walls that I made a copy of from the previous floor, and it's this one, and the DWG drawing content is merged together on this floor, and I can use it the same way I used it previously. I just use the walls on DWG drawing, and I just start processing.
So basically what happens is that you repeat the same steps as you did on the ground floor, only this time it's going to be on the first floor. And this is a good method to keep track of what you have to adjust and what are the things that you can just copy. So I think what you showed is a very good practice, that you copy everything and then you just decide what are the things that you have to get rid of. Obviously now we can again add the openings, we add the walls that are missing. And I think there are a couple of things maybe over here which we don't need. Maybe one of the windows should be deleted, but that's something that we can find out as we work this drawing.
And about the doors, again, I need to just go back to the settings of the door, make sure that I use the proper door item. This is not the one that I would like to use, so I just go and find another door type. That was, I believe, the flush door.
Yes.
So I just go to the main door libraries and try to find that one in the libraries. Yeah, it was that one. Okay. I don't change the height, the width, because those are things that I'm taking from the ground floor. I mean the floor drawing. I change the. I believe this should be 0.
Yes,
this we will place them into partition walls, and we keep 0 from the wall surface. And the wood baldo is a perfect setting. So I think I'm done with this. I just click OK, and I use the same door by 2 points option, and I
do the same thing as we did before. So we just find the 2 ending points and just define the opening direction. Don't forget that most of the things that you see over here are line drawing parts. So the staircase that you see on the right, for instance, is not actually there. It's just a line drawing, and that actually gives the question, how do we show the floor below us? We are going to talk about that too, but before we have to define on the windows, which are special because we have one window over there which is smaller than the rest. So how do we tackle that?
Yeah, let's just make sure that I have the proper window settings if I would like to use the same tool. So I just go to opening window, and I just make sure I use the proper window tool. Here is something that I can change prior placing the window, which is the seal height. This will be perfect. But let me just show you another method. Sometimes I just do use the create similar tool, which is I believe is a perfect tool to do that. You just right click on this window, and in the appearing menu, which is the window menu now, you can use the create similar. By the way, if it's not the window, if it's something else, you can just use this as a jump menu to jump from line to wall to something else, and you will sooner or later find the window itself. So in that case, you find the create similar, and then you can just move and align it with that one. See, the downside of this is that in this case it has the same size, so you didn't pick the 2 points, so you need to manually change the size, just as we did previously in case of the corner window earlier. But now that we have this, all I need to do is to change the sill height. That was, I believe, 900 millimeters. So I just select the window and I go and find the sill height that should be 900. And in that case, I also should change the top level, because those the header
should
of
line
this
up,
window
yes.
should line up somehow.
So do we
in that case
bust out the calculator, or what do we do?
No, you don't have to. You see the value here, and you know that the new value should be 900 millimeters smaller. So you actually just use the minus 900 expression, and then the software will calculate it for you. So now we have a perfect window appearing over there. And now, because this window and this window is similar, is the perfect time to use, again, the right-click window, create similar tool, and go back here and find and match to the original drawing. And now we are done with that design.
I think there are just 2 doors missing up there, so maybe we
really?
can again use the same create similar tool and just place them over there, because I assume they are of the same size, so shouldn't be any problem with that. So that's why it's always good to review your work, because sometimes the line drawing takes away your focus. So next thing what we have to do, we have to visualize the balcony, which we see on the line drawing, but we don't see it in the 3D, so it's not actually there. So how do we create that?
So in that case, let's just start with that one, right? This is where we should start. This is a place where we should place a slab. Again, we just start using the slab in sketch mode, and we will change the material properties and all sorts of properties later. So I just use this one. And the contour that I'm about to follow is, in this specific drawing, it's a bit tricky, because I know it well enough that I should follow this contour here. In your specific case, when you design a different drawing, it might be a different contour, but you should just make sure that you follow the proper contour. If you make a mistake, don't worry, again, you can just misclick somewhere, just undo that, and later the slab is actually flexible enough to allow you to change its contour later. Just as in case of the ramp, we did that. So it's not a problem if you are not doing the perfect job for the first time. You can change the contour later as well. So now I'm done with the contour. I just hit enter, and now I end up with a balcony with the proper size, but not with the proper perfect settings, because I didn't set them previously. So I just click on it. And the first thing that I need to change is perhaps the material.
Yes, it should be the top and the side should be bright white.
Okay, let's just go with the classic bright white, or this, and on the side as well, this should be bright white.
The bottom is white ceiling, that's good enough.
That's perfect.
That's perfect.
And if I need to change the thickness or something else, this is also something.
But we don't have to do that now. For this we don't have to, but there's another scenario when we do have to. So if we go south, then we see that there's a very interesting roof-like thing over here, which we have to copy. So what we are going to do, we do 2 slabs on top of each other. The one on the bottom, we have to set up the correct base elevation and thickness. So it should be, the base elevation is minus 300.
The base elevation is minus 300, so I just change it to minus 300.
And the height should be minus 100.
Minus 100. Mind that minus makes sense here, because whenever you set up an elevation and you use a thickness with a minus value, it will be going down from that elevation. So that's why we use a negative value here. And so now I have the proper height and the proper elevation. And what about the materials?
The bottom and the side should be concrete 3, which we would know from the ramp.
Yeah. Let's just go with that. And this one as well should have the concrete 3, which is here. Yeah.
So now, on top of this, we draw another slab, which would have different values, but let's just draw it first.
Yeah, it's this kind of a distorted U shape.
Yes. Exactly. So when we're done with that, then we set up the base elevation again, which is minus 200.
Okay, let's just focus on the slab. See, I'm using this jump list several times, because sometimes the software just finds the original DWG drawing. If I did not turn off the DWG drawings content, then this is something that I need to do from time to time.
Yeah, so on this plan it says it's minus 200 for the base elevation.
Minus 200.
Yes, and the height should be minus 100.
Minus 100. So actually the height is the thickness of this thing.
Oh, yes, so
and the base elevation is the elevation where it rests. So it's actually now it's resting on top of the other one, as you can see here. So
Yes,
only thing we need to set up is the materials.
Yes,
I
and
believe.
for the material, the top and the side should be bright white.
Top and the side is bright white. Let's just go with the bright white. It will be nice and bright white, yeah.
And the bottom should be white ceiling. Don't forget that we
I
have an
believe
underside as well.
It was that, yeah.
So that's already set up. So only one thing left for this floor. If we go to the staircase, we see that now we can't really use it because there's no gap over here. So, or there's one, but how do we make it larger? How do we create a gap?
Well, there is no hole here. What we see there is the top step of the stair. It's coming actually from the bottom floor, but as there is no opening, no one could climb the stair. So to be able to make a hole in the slab above the stair, there is a very elegant and easy to use tool, and it's actually in the local menu of the stair. You can either right click on the stair and use the local menu, or there is another way. If you left click on an item and you use this one, this is actually the same. This is the context menu or local menu, you can see and find the cut slabs above the stair. And this is an automatic system. It cuts the slab above the stair with a specific so-called free height, which is now with the current settings, you can change it here. It's 2100 millimeters. So the software makes sure that there is always 2100 millimeters from the top of the step to the bottom of the slab.
Perfect. So that's how you create a multi-story building, and we are now going to look at how to create railings so we are not going to fall off. As we understand, railings are a very versatile tool set. So let's look at how they work.
Let's just go back to the first floor. We switched floor. And by the way, to switch floor, I didn't talk about that. You can use the page up and page down keys on the keyboard. And you can also use these arrows here to go up and go below. Now we need to go up to the first floor, and this is where we find the drawing with the railing here. So here, let me just zoom in. I will follow the same contour and use the railing tool. Now again, the railing is coming with several options. The simplest, the easiest is the railing tool, when you can just follow a contour that you want to follow on the drawing. And also at the left hand side, you can select a style. Now the software is actually coming with predefined styles. I will just go with, I believe I should go with the metal railing with glass, because this is something that perfectly fits the design. So again, you can just go and pick predefined styles, or you can actually design your own styles and you can design your own railing. Now we will go with this one. Let me just zoom in, and I believe I need to follow this contour again. I mean, this is a different contour to what I used before.
But if you don't get it right, it's not a problem, because you can fine-tune that later on.
Yes,
so we just have to place it.
So I just make this kind of C shape, and then I hit enter to finish the contour, and then again I hit enter to finish the design itself, and then the software creates the 2D and it creates the 3D as well. Let me just rotate again. It's shift and mouse wheel down and hold the mouse wheel, move the mouse. So let me just zoom in, and I find that it's not perfectly aligned. But, well, it's actually perfectly aligned with its bottom, but in this case, it should be around 100 millimeter down to snap to the side of this slab. So I just click here, and just as in previous cases, you can just change the elevation of this item. You can just change that value.
Type in minus 100.
Or you can actually click on this arrow. These arrows are representing the X, Y, and Z coordinates. And if you click on the vertical coordinate, this one, the arrowhead, you have this move option. You can move it up or down. And when you move the direction, you can just release the mouse and start typing 100 and enter. So the software understands it should push this down by 100 millimeter.
Perfect. So that's how we create a nice railing. But one thing, what I don't really like in this railing is the material as well. Maybe we can find something more glass-like. So how do we replace something which is already coming with the style?
Yeah, it's the same thing actually. You just go to the design center. Now, design center is at a specific material. Whatever you see here, if you would like to go back to the start page of the design center, you should use this little house, the home icon. And here you can find the material libraries, for example, in the catalogs. You just go to the material libraries and you can find, for example, glass materials or anything else. And I believe the one that we look for is something of a blue glass too, right? So we just go with this one. You can check the settings, you can check how it looks like. It's better to check it later in the rendering, but now we're fine with this one. So we just click and drag and release it here in the 3D. And when I say replace one material with another object on this object, I just click on the surface, so the software replaces it only here because I decided to change it only here, not in every place on this object, on this project.
So much about railings, and now let's put a roof on this building.
Yeah.
So let's talk about roofs. How do we put a roof onto this building?
Actually, in this case, we need a roof, and before that, we also need a ceiling, a slab. There is actually a ceiling tool as well in the software. It's mostly used for suspended ceilings like what we have in above us. But when we would like to create the structural item like the slab itself, it's better to use a slab. I can either draw the slab, or I can actually make a copy of the existing slab. But before I do that, I think now it's good to switch off all the unnecessary parts again, because I don't want to accidentally copy DWG drawing parts or something like that. So I go to the layer manager, and here in the layer manager I can find the Nova Start first floor. That is a filter automatically created when I imported the first floor DWG drawing. So I just make it highlighted, and then I select the layers from top to bottom with the shift key, and I just make sure I double click here to make sure that all the layers visibility are turned off, and I click OK. So now I can see only the parts that I have designed on my drawing. So now I can select the contour of the slab. If it's not selected, I can use the jump list to make it sure that the slab is selected. And then now I can go to make a copy of the slab to the floor above us. It's the second floor. Let's just go there. And now I have it here. I need to fine tune it a little bit, the height, the thickness, and I need to remove this hole here. So I just right click on the whole contour, and I use the hole and delete hole option. Yeah, so like that. And also I need to change the contour.
Needs to be changed, but how do we see where to modify the contour to?
Now the contour, two parts is easy, because I just select it and I just would like to snap this to here and this to here. So let's just do that. I just click here, offset, move it, snap it here, and I click here, offset, move it, snap it here, and I don't need those two pins here. So those nodes I can erase, make it one straight line.
And I assume the thickness has to be adjusted as well, because this is not the same slab as we had one floor below. So having said that, the base elevation is minus 300.
Okay, so let's just go with minus 300.
And the height should be minus 100.
Minus 100. So let's just change that as well. So let's just click here. So now the software changed it. It appeared in the 3D with a different layout, and it appears on the 2D with a very simple contour as well.
One thing comes to mind. We are going to have a firewall on this building, which means that we might need to offset this slab, the ceiling, back a little bit, so that way we can draw that. But how do we offset it without seeing how far we have to offset it?
Yeah, well, in that case, when we what you talk about is clearly visible when we jump there and back to see there's actually a thickness of the wall. And if I would like to make this floor visible on this floor, I can use this jump list here. This tiny arrow brings up a jump list of the existing floors, and if I click on the little bulb here next to the name of the first floor, I click here, and then I click into the drawing, it makes the other floor visible. It's not accessible, I cannot select it, but when I click on the contour of the slab and I use this the edge offset tool, and I snap it here, see, it's snapping to the drawing below us. So I just click here, and then now it's done. I just hit escape, and now we have this change made.
So let's put up the roof itself. How do we do that?
Yeah, so to get rid of this transparent visibility, I just jump there and back a little bit to turn off the visibility of the previous floor. And then now I use this specific contour here to design the roof itself. The roof comes with several roof shapes, with several options, with several possibilities. Now, actually, if this roof would be something else, I could, for example, design an open gable. In that case, I just design an open gable along this length with this width, and then the software designs this with a specific height. We will customize that. But before I do that, there is another tool which is the auto roof. In case of a specific shape like this, it's best to use the auto roof. And here at the left hand side you can see ARCHLine comes with the default complex roof and with the default simple roof. Now I'm happy with the simple roof. I'm not willing to see the whole structure, but if I would like to, I could use the complex roof. I just clicked on the simple roof option here, the simple roof style. This is what we use now. So now here, if I would have walls, I could select the walls, but as I do not have, I just use the polygon option here, and I follow the edges, the corner points of this kind of L shape here, and then when I'm done, I hit enter, and the software creates the roof itself. Now the roof is a default roof with default settings. I need to fine tune, for example, the height of this roof. If I would use this height, it would float above this area. So I need to change this C value, which I know of the design, to something else.
Minus 300 would be the correct
so it's
value.
minus 300.
According to these plans anyway.
If actually you cannot find it for the first, you can later change it in the 3D snap it, just as we did with the railing. But in this specific scenario, in this tutorial, we use minus 300. I also changed the materials. These should be matching with the design, and these will be bright white and bright white at the side and at the bottom. Also, talking about the materials, I should change the roof tiles.
Yes.
The roof tiles are all the same, sort of a blind coal, like an anthracite gray material. If you cannot find it here, as now I have it here, but if you cannot find it here, you need to go to the libraries and go to the building or some other place and find it. Or if you do not know where those are, you just use the values and use that was blind coal or something like that. Just type blind, you will find the proper material, and you just go with OK. And the same happens with the ridge. It's not appearing here now, so I do that again. I search everywhere. I just go blind and find blind coal, and this one. With the value.
Yes, when you look for that, can you again go to the material library? I want to show that orange triangle.
Yeah. So if you use blind and try to find
Okay,
this.
what is the difference between the first and the second option?
You see that little tiny orange dot, orange triangle? That means the left hand side is a copy of the right. On the right hand side, what appears in the center, this is the library default, and this is what I already used in the design.
So this is already in the design.
That, which I already used, so I just go with that one. So now I set the basic tile, the ridge, and the valley to the same material. I click update, and then the software updates the 3D, so I can just click and drag this 3D to find and see the details. Now there is another thing that at least I need to set up, and that's about the pitch and shape. And on this page I can set up the roof inclination one by one, or I can apply the same slope all around this building. And on this building, the main slope appearing
25 degrees
is 25 degrees. So I just apply for all planes and I change it to 25. And when I click update, the software updates the inclination automatically. Now I need to change the inclination here and here to something else. This will be 35.
Yes.
See, and now I'm not applying it for all the planes. I just click on the selection and I apply it only here. So I just type 35, update, and I click here and I retype 35 and I update. And if I would like to make this, I just would like to completely disable this roof plane. There is actually a firewall. Later we will design a firewall. I just use the gable end and I click update, and then the software updates that. And this is actually something of what we would like to create. So going through the settings, you set up the general properties, you can set up the roof tiles, you can set up the pitch and shape, and all sorts of other settings. And also you can go to the projections and cut and set how this roof cuts the walls. And the default setting is own floors, and we will just go with that setting for now.
So any kind of wall element which is created on its own floors would be cut. So let's look at the 3D, let's see how it looks like.
Okay, so let's just turn it around. It's nearly perfect. We need to make a few tweaks. For example, we need to change the slab to match the roof itself, and we need to change the roof to be on the left-hand side of this future firewall. So that's what I'm about to do now. So let's start with the slab. I click on the slab contour and I click on the edges and I use the offset to match the edge of this.
So now you're highlighting the slab what you just worked with. So now it's easy to snap to the roof and you just extend it. We could be using the offset or command, but now for every single roof plane you have different values, so we can't use that. But now we can use the slab as a reference to offset back the roof planes, right?
Yeah. So I can click on the roof. And by the way, if you are confused, which one is the roof, which one is the slab, there is at least always two ways to double check. Now, if you click on it, and if you're not sure that this is the roof or the slab, you can just check on the left-hand side. See if this is roof, then you can make sure it's roof. And on the right-hand side, it's a great control that you can see that whatever highlighted under 3D, there is it's the roof or the slab or something else. So I just click on the right side edge. I use offset, snap it to the slab. I click on the edge, offset, snap it to the slab. So now we are nearly done with this roof. We only need
so that's how you create an automated roof and fine-tune it as you go. But now let's look at the firewall as the next challenge. About the firewall, this is going to be a very specialized shape, right?
Yeah. This firewall, what we would like to create is not under a roof, so we cannot make it cut with a roof, but it should follow the roof. So we need to use something which is a strong point of ARCHLine, is the profiling of walls. So to be able to do that, let's just first create a copy of the previously existing wall, and it's on the floor below us. It's on the first floor, so I just jump back to the first floor. I make sure this wall is selected, and I make a copy of this wall to the second floor, and let's just hit OK. So now we have that, but we need to tweak its bottom and tweak its height. So I just select it in the 3D or the 2D, and I change the base elevation should be minus 300 if I recall, and the height should be around
4,500.
4,500?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, let's just go with that.
And also the endpoints are not good either, because you have to extend them north and south so that they would match with
instead of trying to find a proper value here, that's also something that I could do. I just click on the endpoint, this little blue dot, and I just snap it here, and I do the same thing around here, and I just snap it here as well. So now it's fully covering that surface. So here's the trick. If you would like to create something like that, you need to use a profiling tool that allows you to cut the wall shape by yourself. But in this case, we need to see the roof from the side to be able to see the contour that we need to use. So first we need to go and find the proper view in the viewport. So I just go and select the 3D view, and there is this little navigation bar, and it has this option here with the right side view. And why it's right? It's because if you see this drawing here, you should imagine yourself standing here. So if you stand here, this is the right side, left, the back, and the front of this building. So it's a right side, right view. So we can see the full surface in its original shape. That's fine. But there is one another thing. I will use it as a drawing. So in ARCHLine, there is actually a specialty that you can flip the view between image and vector drawing. In case you would like to use it for drafting, you should snap it or switch it to vector drawing. So this is what I'm doing now. I switch it to vector drawing. So now in this case, I cannot rotate it. I'm trying to rotate it. I cannot rotate it because this is a line drawing. It's still 3D, but it's a line drawing. So I can use this content. I can select it, and I can make a copy of this. I just use the Control-C combination, which is for the copy shortcut. Control-C, and I pick this point as a reference. Now I go back to the 2D because I would like to use it as a 2D base drawing, and I paste it here. Control-V for paste. Yeah, I don't want another copy, so I just hit escape. So now I have this drawing. I just made a snapshot or a copy of that content there, which will tell me what exactly is the shape of the contour that I'm willing to follow. And I know that what I would like to create is 100 millimeter larger than the original contour from this point.
Yeah, 500. But yes.
500, yeah, sorry. So I use the drafting tool, and they use, for example, the line. Now, this is not the only solution. I just use this solution from time to time. I just click on the starting point. I just move the mouse upwards, and I type 500 because now I'm in millimeters. So I hit enter, And then now I have that appearing over there. And then I use a tool called, it's also in the drafting, it's called the offset. You have a 2D drawing and you click on an item, you can make an offset with that item, and you can snap it to another existing item. So you can make sure now it's at the same height and same elevation. Now, if the drawing becomes confusing, you can use this delete between joints. I use it to clear up my design from time to time and just make sure that I get rid of those tiny unwanted parts. I just chop them off. And then if this line should meet with the other one, should be joined together, then this is the part when you will use a T-connection, but not with the walls, but with the lines or the 2D items. So I just use this here and I just join them together. So what I have now, I have a nice clean contour of the wall and I have a shape which I'm willing to follow, and I don't need the rest. So what I do, I just select this here. This is absolutely something that I need, and I control click on the contour as well. These are all the things that I need.
These are the two items that you need, nothing else.
Oh, nothing else.
Okay.
So I just make a copy. I just click here, make a copy, move a copy to someplace else. So actually, I just clear up the drawing, making a copy of the content, the only content that I need. And to be able to use this on a side of a wall as a profile, as a frontal profile, the last thing that you need to do is you need to click on the proper side of the wall. If you right click there, the wall menu appears. And again, in some of our tutorials, you will find the left click and then this menu. That's the same. You just click here and you use the profile and add whole frontal profile. Full frontal profile we will redesign. And by default, this wall looks like a rectangle actually. So you can snap that to the original drawing that you used before. And then instead of following this contour, we already created it. You can use the boundary recognition tool. This actually is the closed loop tool. You just click on that command and you just fill this area up. And the ARCHLine automatically recognized this shape and it automatically applied it to this wall. Then now let's just go back to let's just go back from vector drawing, from line drawing to image, which is something that you can easily rotate around, or you can actually just go with the default axonometric view. This will always flip the model around to match the view, and then you can just rotate it around. There is one thing that I did not set up.
Yes, the body material is something that we have to, but
and that's the material. I don't want to see this brick here, so I just click here, and instead of the brick 3 body material, I use the bright white, and that's how it goes. And now I actually don't need these here. Those are just line drawings I used for drafting. I can erase them. In your specific case, if you would like to somehow document these or make measurements later, you can keep it. But now I don't need it, so I just selected it and I hit delete to erase that content, and this is how it looks like now.
Perfect. So that sums up how to work with firewalls. Because just to recap, the reason why we had to profile it is because roofs are able to cut the walls, but in this scenario, this would not do. We need to have a specialized shape, and that's what profiling.
The roof needs to overlap the wall, but in this case, it's not overlapping. So there's a workaround in that case.
Let's now take care of the rain gutters. Let's see how they are done. So rain gutter is again one of those things that it's easier to model with a parametric element because you might need to change it as you go. How do we create them?
The rain gutter is a very simple tool to use. There are other use, but now we will go with the simplest. Is that it's here in the building menu, and it's under roof, and it's called the gutter tool. The gutter tool allows you to select the bottom of the roof itself. You can do it either in the 3D or if you just go back to the 2D and you do the same thing, it works the same way. You just click on the bottom line, and then the software recognizes the shape, and you might need to change the cross-section profile. Here I must say that ARCHLine is coming with the built-in cross-section profile library, but you also have the option to design your own cross-section. We have a different material about that. Also talking about this here, this is obviously not something like a wooden material, so I will just go to the settings and I select, for example, dark gray. If you cannot see dark gray here, you can just go and find dark gray by typing the material name here, and you will find it. Just make sure you are looking at the material and the whole library. So now I change that, and I need to tweak the horizontal and vertical offset to change where this red line is.
The horizontal offset should be 100 millimeters.
Okay, let's just make it 100.
And the vertical is minus 200.
Minus 200. Actually, the reason why we use these values especially is because the original cross-section profile has 200 by 200, so we moved half the width and the full height. So now it's now how it's aligned, as you can see at the right top corner. Let's
how about how about the downspout? Because we have to add that as well. How do we add them?
Okay,
how do we modify them?
Let's just go with again. The downspout comes with different path profiles. Like it can go with different shapes. I just go with the default, and I set up the length to match the proper building height we have now, and it should be 5,900. Yeah. So and also I need to change the position. I can either use this slider to move it somewhere else, or if I know the proper value, in this case I know the distance from the left hand side, and it's
5,580.
580. Then when I click on the other side or click on it to another value, it gets updated, or you can actually use this update option as well. So it's not existing yet because I didn't add this and I create it. So now it's appearing. I like this value, but I need to create one another here on the corner. So I add a new one, and in this case, the position will be
7,800.
7,800. Okay, let's just go with that value, and let's just create, and it appears there. Click OK, and now we're done. We are actually having a nice gutter with downspout, and it appears in the 3D as well. And it's working perfectly. There's just two things that I would like to highlight here. If you would like to fine tweak the position, sometimes in the 3D it's better to find the proper position. You can just click on any of those markers and you will find a move downspout option, which allows you to freely move or just type a value and move it, I don't know, 200 millimeters to the side. Also, if you would like to change where the bottom of this downspout is, you can click on this tiny arrow and you can move it perhaps a few millimeters up or down, or you can just simply click on a value, click on a place where you would like to align this to.
Perfect. So that's the advantage of working with parametric elements. You can fine-tune them anytime you want. And now, next up, we are going to look at how we place a couple of columns, which are going to be a bit tricky, as I understand. Let's see how they work. There are several scenarios when columns are used in this plan. One of them is when we use them as railings, and another one is the structural columns which are holding up that flat roof. So how do we create these?
Let's just go back to where we would like to place those columns. This is actually a railing for the staircase, but in this specific case it was easier to model them using the column tools. So to be able to set up the proper settings, we will go and find the properties in the building, properties, structure, and column. Here we need to fine-tune a few things. Like, for example, there is an option for the cross-section profile. You need to make sure that you use the rectangle cross-section profile, which can be selected using the select profile tool. Here in the libraries you will find the rectangle simple. Just click OK. And then you need to make sure that this option is disabled, because if it's enabled, changing one value will change the other as well. We don't want that at this moment, so we just use a width
100 millimeters, yes.
And the height will be 50. Yeah, let's just go with that value. It's fine. That's okay. And I also need to change the materials. Those are a wood material with a specific name. And again, you can just try to go there and find, if you know it's wood, so it should be somewhere in the wood, perhaps in the hardwoods, and you should scroll down and there's the wood, oak, oak white material. This is what we use. Or if you cannot find it, you just type it here and the software will find it for you. You just do the same with the surface material, it's the same. And the base offset from the floor should be this value.
Yes, 675, that should be fine. And why is the height so high?
It's because this column goes from the very bottom, from the ground floor up to the roof. That's why it's that value. And also, this time you need to disable this option, this slab roof cutting, because you don't want these items to be cut accidentally by the the slab itself. So
Perfect.
let's just go with this. Okay, and then now before I place these on the drawing, I need to make sure that the DWG drawing, which actually contains those tiny symbols, appears. So I just go back to the DWG drawing the layer management, and to find the proper filter for the proper DWG drawing, which was for the ground floor. And I know that this is on the partition wall layer, so I just enable the visibility of that. I just click on that. I do not need to unlock it because I don't want to accidentally remove parts of it. So I just make them visible. Let's click OK, so I can see that content. And then now I can use the column tool to place those columns here to match this design. And actually now it's not perfectly aligned, so I just placed it, and then I can rotate it, for example, 90 degrees. And then if it's still not perfectly aligned, I can just use any of those corner points to snap it to the original drawing.
How do you create the other instances? Would you just copy paste this, or?
That's an option. I can also use this move a copy to paste, or I can just use and repeat the same steps. But there is one tool that I like to teach here, and it's the array copy. And that allows you to...
Before you do that,
Yeah.
can we actually move inside the model so that we can see what's going on?
That's right.
I understand it will be difficult because we are in axonometric, but what can we do?
Yeah, in case of an axonometric, however close you zoom, you won't ever get into the model, because that's why we call this an axonometric. You need to go into perspective. If you would like to do that, you need to activate the 3D, go to this little eye icon. This is for the setting of perspective. If you go there, you can see the top view of the building. This is actually where you are, where you look to, and this is how it looks like in the 3D. So if you would like to go into the building and move yourself into the building, this is how you do that. And that's where we can see our building part, this tiny column here appearing. And if we like this view, we can easily add this view to this item, and let's just double click and rename it to, for example, staircase. Okay, let's just hit OK and find OK. So now we have this here, and I don't want to manually one by one paste it. I need to quick copy that, and I already count that it's actually 12 additional copies, if I recall.
Yes.
So I just click on this one, and I go to the edit tool, and there is this duplicate, and there's this array. This is a brilliant tool. This allows you to type the values. It's 12. And click OK, and then you need to pick the point of the where you need to pick this up, and then see now you are actually aligning this with the drawing, perfectly aligned. And let's just click there, and now I have 12 additional copies of this column here.
See that nicely in the 3D as well. So that's how you create this kind of structure. Obviously, we could have used the railing as well, but it was a very good pretext to show you how to duplicate and how to multiply the columns.
Yeah. Let me just zoom out, because now we will place a few columns here outside.
But I understand that these columns are going to be no regular columns. They have special attachments, right? So how do we create those?
Yeah, in that case, we will still use the column tool, but before we do that, we just make a few tweaks inside that. So let's just make sure that I can see the column layer of the original DWG drawing.
Yeah,
so I
that
just
we
go
will know
here,
where to put them.
and I find again the same filter, and I make sure that the column layer is visible. So I just click on that, OK, and OK. So now those are the symbols. I have 1, 2, 3 that I need to place here. And to set up the proper settings, we again go back to the building and use properties, structure, and column. And now help me out. What sort of values should I use here?
The height would be 200.
The height
No,
itself.
I mean this thing, the profile.
Okay. The profile height. So
Yes,
in this
would be
case,
200.
I still use the same rectangle profile.
That's right. That's right.
But the height is 200, and the width is
Would be 300.
300.
But perhaps you have to unlink the connection between the two values.
300. Let's see. It's in this case I don't need to. If I go back here, this is where I need to. That's you're right. But if I'm doing it here, there's no such option. Like
the material should be a different one. It should be stone wall underscore 48.
Okay. So that's something I cannot find here because I didn't use it before. So I go back to the library, and what stone
wall.
wall, stone wall. We have a few
And
of
that's
those.
the one on the right.
And that's,
Yes.
that's it. Okay, let's just go with this one. And I just make sure I use the same thing. But because I used it before, it's already in the model, so I just click OK.
The offset for these, the base offset for these elements is -200.
-200.
And the height is 2,700.
2,700. Okay.
Okay, and I understand that there's some attachment to this because there's going to be an extra protruding thing from this. So
In
how
this
do
case, we
create
use this option, which is in the other section, cutout, recess, attachment, all sort of drilling and things like
Yes,
that you need to
that's what we
add
need
here. So I just click on Insert New, and instead of a cutout, it's actually appearing here. It's like a drilling. I need to add attachment. And as it won't be at the bottom, it appears here. It will be at the top. I need to change the position in vertical direction measure from not the bottom, but the top. So it jumps there automatically. And then I
the
need to
circle is
fine
not,
tune.
yeah, the circle is not good either. It should be a rectangular.
Yeah, the cross-section profile is not circular. So we go and select a rectangle here. Rectangle, simple, that's fine. And what's the width and height we should use?
It's not something that you define here,
Okay.
but back there, so if you go back.
Okay, I just make sure that this is selected. I click OK. And see, now it's kind of off to the right hand side, and this is where it's important to talk about the alignment point, the reference point. So I go back here and I just pick another one. So you will see that instead of this point, it will jump to its center. So let's just say OK. See, now it's jumped there.
And now the start of attachment / recess from reference would be -150.
-150.
And
let's just go with that.
Let's
Redraw.
crank the thickness up to 100.
So the thickness, which is this one, should be 100.
And also the material of this attachment is different. It's the well-known concrete 3.
Okay, so the surface material is concrete 3.
Yeah,
It's
there,
here.
there you go.
And perhaps the end plate is as well concrete 3. Let's just go with that and concrete 3. Yeah, that's fine. And now we are done with this. We can actually hit OK, and we can just click.
Oh, you don't
OK.
have to save it because
we can
Yes.
save it, but we don't have to. Then now I just use the column tool and I just align it to the original design here. See, they are nicely aligned. The other design here as well. And then here again, I can just place it and I can just hit escape, click on it, rotate 90 degrees clockwise, and then click on this corner point to move it there and click there and match it. And if you need, like in this specific case, sometimes you need to fine tune the height or the starting point, the elevation. In this case, perhaps both. You just click on this one and click on the height settings, and you can just change the base offset. This should be minus
100, I think.
Let's just go with that one. And then now, see, now a tricky thing happened, and this is a default setting for this specific item. It's linked to the floor.
Yeah, I see that the height is now 2,600. It was
Automatically changed,
2,700.
which in many cases it's good, but in our case we need to change that to 2,700 to make sure that it really matches that.
Perfect. So that is actually how you create columns and elements which have multiple attachments and recesses.
Yeah, let me just disable the unnecessary parts, and let's just zoom out a little bit so we can see, we can have a nice view of what we have achieved. And congratulations if you followed this tutorial, this webinar, and you are there. You did a great job, and thank you for following us.
But the job is not yet done, because next time we are going to talk about documentation, and after that we look at visualization. So there's still a lot to learn. We just wanted to cover attention.
Thank you, congratulations, and see you next time.
Bye-bye.